Good evening. It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call this meeting to order. We start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. Al, could you start with roll call, please?
Okay, and this is roll call for the regularly scheduled City Commission meeting of January 25th. Benson.
Benson here.
Benson is present. Brunig.
Brunig here.
Brunig is present. Sarda.
Sarda here.
Sarda is present. Mybom.
Mybom is present.
Mybom is present. Minor.
Minor's present.
Minor is present. Mosier.
Mosier here.
Mosier is present. Schramm.
Schramm here.
Schramm is present. Weber.
Weber is present.
Weber is present. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, present.
Mayor Johnson is present. City Manager Leon.
Leon is here.
City Manager Leon is present. City Attorney Denherter.
Denherter is here.
City Attorney Denherter is present.
You have before you the minutes of the regular meeting of January 11th. What is your pleasure?
Weber moves.
Schramm second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any commission discussion about the minutes? Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on the minutes of the meeting of January 11th. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Roll call on the minutes. Passes 9-0.
You have before you the schedule of bills. What is your pleasure?
Sarda moves to pay the bill.
Mosier, second.
Minor's
We have a motion and a second. Any commission discussion about the bills? There's no one in the audience tonight except, well, I shouldn't say that. We have our honorary commissioner here. It's always hard for me to remember. You're just a regular member of the audience. But he's not moving. He's not saying anything. So, Dave, anyone on YouTube who has a question about the bills?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll, roll call on the schedule of bills. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Roll call on scheduled bills passes 9-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, members of the commission. First of all, I think we have our bugs on our technology worked out. It looks fantastic. Dwayne, thank you and your team. We also have another guest in our meeting, Mr. Felcom. Am I saying your last name right? He's joined us from Alpha Video to make sure everything is going to run smoothly. So he spent the whole weekend here getting us up and going. So we're happy that we can bring you the quality we've got here, as well as the live audio, and we're streaming to the PEG channel, I believe. So, no, we're not streaming to the PEG channel, but we are on YouTube Live. So, microphones are working well, I believe, and so we hope to, as we get used to the new technology, be able to work out any of the final bugs. So. Wanted to talk to you a little bit about a couple things coming up. The mask ordinance expires in March. So if we're going to reinitiate this, That's a significant change, so we need 2 meetings, 2 hearings. That'd be February 8 and February 22. So I just wanted to throw that out to you. I mentioned it in my weekly update, but the staff is under the understanding we should move forward with that and put that out again for another 60 to 90 days, knowing that you can rescind it any time with a resolution, if something should change dramatically. My understanding is that we're going to be a while here before we're all fully vaccinated, so it's probably a good move. But don't need to talk about it tonight, but if there's concern about moving forward with an extension of that by any of you commissioners, we'd like to know. So please contact me, soon, because we will put it on the first reading for our next meeting, which is the 8th. Ross and I have talked about probably a date certain as opposed to 60 or 90 days, so we can time it in conjunction with the next cycle of commission meetings, if for some reason we would need to extend it further. So, wanted to bring that forward. Also, Christmas booze. Had a question from a citizen about selling alcohol on Christmas Day. We currently don't allow that. I've heard from a couple of you that you have no problem with folks being able to buy alcohol on Christmas Day. Staff doesn't see any problem with that. So we're inclined to start moving forward with a amendment to our ordinance pertaining to that item. If you are not in agreement, or you have more you'd like to talk about, or would like to talk about it at a work session, let me know, and we can hold off on moving that forward. It's not a hurry. We're a long way from Christmas, but my sense is from those of you who didn't respond to me in the email was that you were okay with it. So, City Commission, we're going to have an election, maybe, depending upon who runs. So let me just get those dates here. The election is Tuesday, April 13th. So we are publishing the vacancies again on the 27th. We've published them once already. This Friday is the first day that interested people can circulate nominating petitions. Commissioners whose terms expire this May are Benson, Johnson, and Sarda. If you are interested in running for a seat on the commission, you must be a resident of Yankton, as well as be registered to vote within the city. Also, people should be reminded to register to vote. Petitions can be picked up at the finance office at City Hall, or you can get them on the state website. And the deadline to turn those in is Friday, 5 p.m., February the 26th. So anybody interested in rerunning or running should fill one of those out and get their petition circulated. Dana Schmidt and the library would like me to visit with you about their history project that they are working on. They are doing a living history project related to COVID-19. We would like to hear people's experiences. So they would really like to hear from folks that have been in leadership positions. It doesn't have to be anything lengthy, but they would like to hear people's personal and professional experiences dealing with COVID-19. So, if you are inclined to do that, that would be really appreciated. And I'm hoping I can get some staff people, particularly people that have dealt with the public in COVID-19, one-on-one, to be able to share their experiences. So in the future, we hope this never happens again, but in the future, 100 years from now, people can look back and see how we dealt with this pandemic. Also, I know many of you have a lot of interesting experiences in your private lives or your professional lives. So if you're, a teacher, or you work in HR, or you work for a major healthcare provider, you might have a perspective that people would like to hear. So I really think that I would encourage folks to do that. Likewise, I don't know anybody that this hasn't impacted. So for the public, we'd love to hear from the public. A great way to get involved with the library too. I think they've gotten a lot of press about this already, even in the region, but I think it's really important that we're going to document so we can look back and learn, and future generations can learn from what we did right and learn what they can do better should they have a situation come before them like this again. So if you need more information on that, please let me know. Otherwise, I don't have anything else I want to talk about, but I'd like to answer your questions if you have them. So Mayor, I'll stand for your questions.
Questions for the city manager? Hearing nothing, we'll move on to public appearances. This is a time when members of the audience can address the commission about items not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience tonight who would like to address the commission? No. All right. Let's move on to the consent item agenda then. Number 1 is consideration of memorandum 21-17 recommending approval of the applications from the Riverboat Days Committee for a transient merchant license for August 20th through 22nd and a special events dance license for the same days. What is your pleasure?
Benson, so moved.
Brunick, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
Okay, and this is roll call on consent item 2-1. Weber.
Weber votes aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunick.
Brunick, aye.
Brunick is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, I.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Consent item 2-1 passes 9-0.
Moving on to old business, number 1 is consideration memorandum 21-10 regarding the public hearing on a new retail on-off sale malt beverage and South Dakota farm wine license for June 30th, 2020 through July 1st, 2021 from BRAD LLC doing business as Bro Burger Bar, and that's at 304 West 3rd Street. What is your pleasure?
Schramm, so moved.
Benson, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No YouTube comments.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on old business item 3-1. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunick.
Brunick, aye.
Brunick is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, I.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-1 passes 9-0.
Number 2 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-05 and resolution 21-05 regarding the public hearing and consideration of the state revolving fund application for the wastewater plant project. What is your pleasure?
Weber moves.
Sarda,
Minor.
second.
We've got a motion and a second. Kyle, are you with us tonight with the presentation?
I sure am tonight.
Please proceed.
Good evening, members of the commission, Honorable Mayor Johnson. I have a short presentation here as part of the public hearing and facilities plan for our upcoming wastewater improvements. Hopefully everybody can see that on their screen. Just real quick, project locations. Hopefully you can see my cursor there. Most of it will be happening down here at the wastewater treatment facility itself. We do have some manhole rehabilitation we'll be doing out by the Hastings lift station. Just real quick, kind of what the projects are down here at the wastewater plant and kind of how we flow through the wastewater plant. The main flow comes in through an underground line out here kind of in front of the street department. That's a arched concrete pipe. Same style of pipe within the plant we've had some issues with. So part of this project is to replace that pipe. Just about all the sewer, probably 99% of the sewer in town flows through that pipe. So a failure in that pipe would be catastrophic. So We'll be replacing that pipe. Flow then comes into that building here, the very first building. We've got a bar screen in there and a grit chamber. Basically, the bar screen, just things like rags, towels, sticks, some of that kind of debris. We'll be replacing that bar screen with a finer bar screen. One of the issues we had a lot of here over the years is the shop towels and Clorox wipes and things like this. So that finer bar screen will catch more of that stuff. As the flow goes into the grit chamber in that building, basically we slow the flow down. Again, we settle out the heavy materials, the grit, sand, the eggshells, some of that heavier stuff. It goes through the odor control building, through a plume into our primary clarifiers. Basically in these primary clarifiers, we slow the flow down a little bit more. That allows those solids that will settle out. The greases float to the top. We skim the greases off. We pump the solids off the bottom into our digesters. The remaining effluent off these clarifiers, gravity flow up into the basement of this aeration building. This pipe here under the ground going into the aeration building is the one that's failed and has the sinkhole. Like I said, that's also that arched concrete pipe, so we would be replacing that as part of the project. Flows into the basement of this building, which is fairly deep. This is the first place in the facility where we actually have to pump the sewage. To this point, it's all been gravity flowing. We have 3 large pumps in the basement of this building. Sorry, excuse me. In this building, those pumps have basically reached their life expectancy, and we'll be replacing those with a newer style, what they call a dry pit submersible. It's a pump that's designed to be submerged, so if we have any failures where the basement fills up with primary effluent, rather than have to take the motors out, motor shop and be repaired. Basically, the pumps are designed to be underwater. Get the power back on, just turn them back on. All the electrical will be moved up to the upper level. So it adds a lot of resiliency to our project or to our facility. From there, the flow flows up to our aeration basin up here in the corner here. And this is basically where all the bugs do the work. This is where our effluent meets the let me get back here, meets the bugs and everything is mixed together. And basically at this point, what was left coming out of here is what we call suspended solids, and these are the solids that won't settle. What we do when we get in the aeration here is the bugs basically consume those suspended solids, those dissolved solids, and create a solid that basically those bugs kind of attract to each other and create a flock. And then once we get that flock created, as we go into the next station, our secondary clarifier, that flock will then settle out. We can remove the solids similar like we did to the primary clarifiers. All the solids go into the digesters down here. The solids are reduced. We get vector reduction and things like that. Solids are then pumped out to the holding lagoons out on Palatable Point and are later land applied as a fertilizer product in the fall. The final effluent goes down through the UV, ultraviolet, it's treated there. And what the UV does is it sterilizes any bacteria that may be left in that water. And then the final water goes out to the Missouri River as a discharge. So that's kind of the flow of the river. Talk a little bit about the projects as we went through there. The other projects will be going out here on out there by Hastings. We'll be replacing and rehabbing several manholes. These were the manholes that were underwater during the flood, the event during 2019. And that allowed for a lot of infiltration into our system. We basically hydraulically overloaded our system. So we'll be doing some rehabilitation of those manholes to make them watertight, so we won't have that those issues with infiltration. Kind of project purpose needs, again, it was a disaster-related program through EDA. Most of the projects will be funded through EDA. So we're looking for projects that fit that program, looking at system weaknesses and needs to strengthen our facility, build that resiliency to natural disasters. Address some service failures we had during the event, need for capacity and hydraulic flow. Address economic vulnerability in some of the areas that we had some businesses shut down during the event. and then some just overall operational shortcomings and analysis and planning. Basically, we have 11 projects within this. The first one is replace the electrical main gear. With the city of Yankton, we have basically 3 power feeds coming into the city and then 2 feeds coming into the wastewater treatment facility. We have an electrical switch gear that if we lose one, our main feed coming in the system, it automatically switches over to the secondary feed. Again, that's a piece of equipment that's met its life expectancy. And right now, when we have those switches from one power source back and forth, we get some power surges as the cause of problems in the system. So we're replacing that electrical switch gear, reduce single points of failure in our electrical plan. Basically, like when we look at that main aeration building with those boarding pumps, we'll be looking at running 2 power sources of that building. Right now, each building basically has 1 power source that's all connected. So if we lose power coming out of our main power source, we lose power to every building. So this will add some redundancy for our electrical system. During the last EDA project, we added some effluent pumping. These are portable pumps that are set up at the discharge point of the facility so that if we need to bypass or if we need to push more water out of our system, out of our wastewater plant that we can get out gravity, we can pump it out. Those are our portable pumps, and what we're going to add is a generator for those pumps, a portable generator. So that'll give us the ability to also use those pumps in different locations as needed throughout town. We talked about the pre-treatment influent screens in the inlet building, replacing the dry submersible pumps in the aeration building. A new equalization basin. Currently, we do not have an equalization basin. What an equalization basin is basically just an overflow basin. So we'll be adding a earth-bermed lagoon basically out at the paddle point next to our current solid storage lagoons. And this allows us to, during those big events, bypass some flow out to that lagoon, hold it there, and then bring it back. As the event goes away, our flows come back down, we'll be able to bring that material back at a later time. We may also use that in some of our daily operations where we can, during the peak day, push some of our flow out to the equalization basin, and during the low flow at night, bring it back. So looking at equalization basin. The other thing we're looking at is some bypass gates. Throughout the plant, we have bypass gates that allow us to bypass and send directly to the river if needed. Some of those bypass gates are around the inlet building, coming off the primary clarifiers and things like that. So the bypass gates are original, and we'll be looking at just basically upgrading those to rehab them and get them operational. When we talked about the secondary influent pipe, that's the pipe going up the hill with the sinkhole, replacing that pipe. The influence from the new manhole to the plant, that's the underground line out in front of the street department. We'll be replacing that. We also have a portable 6-inch pump. We currently have one that we used during the 2019 event. It's basically has life expectancy, so we'll be replacing that with a new 6-inch portable pump. And then the manholes at the Hastings lift station along up there to, again, make those watertight. Through the facility plan, we're required to look at alternative options for each one of these. Most of these are service failures and needed capacity, so there's not a lot to evaluate. The one we did do some evaluation was the equalization basin. Basically, we looked at doing a larger earth berm or a smaller concrete basin. In the facilities plan, the earth berm was recommended as a cheaper alternative. We will still also look at the smaller concrete basin for maybe some of those smaller events and that daytime equalization, but most likely we'll be sticking with the earth basin one. Now you're looking at estimated project costs for each project. The construction costs will be covered under EDA for each of those projects. So the proposed financing, I'm going to be real careful with this as I say this. Our current fees we have in place will cover the need for the SRF requirements. However, I would caution that it is still, we're still looking at borrowing $3.5 million, so it will be hard on our budget, so we're not required at this point for the SRF to increase our fees, but most likely with what we have now and what we have coming up in the future, we'll have to continue to look at increases on a yearly basis. As I said, it's a $3.5 million loan. This is covering our 20% match, our engineering fees. EDA covers most of the construction costs, roughly $6 million on the EDA side. Low interest loan, 2% for 20 years, so a really good interest rate at the time right now. So we're looking at a start here with HDRs currently working on the design. Again, we're shooting for May of 2023 for completion. That's a hopeful timeline. I'm guessing we'll probably end up, in that fall of 2023. So that's kind of where we're at with the project and what we're looking at. Again, we did also have to look at environmental considerations as part of the facility plan. Really no major impacts were found. Everywhere we're doing the project is in pre-disturbed areas, so not a lot of concerns there. Of course, with any project of this size, we're going to have some noise issues in the area. Anytime you have that much dirt work and bare soil, they're going to have some air quality with things like dust and those issues that we'll be looking at. But again, no major environmental impacts to note. With that, I'll just open it up for any questions, concerns. Like I said, again, this is the public hearing for the SRF application.
Commission, let's start with you. Any questions for city staff?
This is Commissioner Mosier. I have one. I know we've talked about this before and it's been asked, but remind me again, this obviously is a short-term solution. At some point, we have to have a long-term discussion. How much time does this project buy us before we have to have that long-term conversation?
Most of these projects are at least 10-year projects. We do still have some other issues at the facility that we couldn't address as part of this because we couldn't get those projects to fit that criteria for the EDA. So, most of these projects were projects that we were going to be looking at doing over the next couple of years. Again, none of these projects really put us in a position that we're making any long-term decisions. But I would say, again, within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to be looking at having to make those long-term decisions and looking at some major upgrades to the facility.
Kyle, when it comes to bidding this out, is it going to be one bid or is it going to be multiple projects with multiple bids?
For the SRF portion, it'll be one bid for all these projects, the construction projects.
And who selects the winning bidder?
Well, the commission will have to approve the just like a regular construction project, so you'll have to approve the, the lowest responsible bidder unless there's a reason, not to award it. We are working with the EDA right now on the consulting. So there's, this is a multi-prong approach. We have the construction, but we also have some analysis to do as well. So we are working, and that is an RFP, and that's a professional service. So it's not, it's based on who meets the criteria of the proposal, but the actual construction will be lowest responsible bidder.
Again, I think it's important to note that a lot of this is coming out of the 2019 flood, which is almost 2 years ago now. And this is just a good reminder of how close we came that day to some major failures in the wastewater treatment system. So thank you to Kyle and his staff for identifying these issues and then finding a lot of funding to help us get them accomplished. Any more commission discussion? How about in the audience? No audience feedback tonight. Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No YouTube comments.
All right, Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business item 3-2. Brunig.
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Mybom?
Is aye.
Mybom's aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-2 passes 9-0.
Number 3 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-14 regarding the public hearing on the request for a special malt beverage on sale retailer's license for August 20th through 22nd, 2021 from Yankton Area Riverboat Days. What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mosier.
Benson, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No comments on YouTube.
Thank you very much. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business item 3-3. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda's aye. Mybom?
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig?
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-3 passes 9-0.
Number 4 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-15 regarding the public hearing on the request for a special malt beverage on sale retailer's license for, again, August 20th through 22nd from Yankton Area Riverboat Days. This would be their alternate location at City Hall. What is your pleasure?
Benson, so moved.
Brunick, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube who wishes to address the commission?
No one on YouTube.
Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business item 3-4. Mybom?
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig?
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-4 passes 9-0.
Number 4 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-16 regarding the public hearing on the request for a special events on sale liquor license for January 30th, 2021 from Flussworks LLC, doing business as The Landing and Big River Burrito Company at 100 Douglas Avenue. What is your pleasure?
Brunick, so moved.
Minor, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No YouTube comments.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on old business item 3-5. Minor?
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier?
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm?
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber?
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson?
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig?
Brunick, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda?
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom?
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Mayor Johnson?
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-5 passes 9-0.
Number 6 under old business is consideration of memorandum 21-19 and resolution 20-87, which is a public hearing on the special assessment role for noxious vegetation and tree trimming. What is your pleasure?
So moved, Mosier.
Benson, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No YouTube comments.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on old business item 3-6. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier's aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Excuse me. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Old business item 3-6 passes 9-0.
Moving on to new business, number 1 is consideration of memorandum 21-13 regarding a sidewalk cafe license at 100 East 3rd Street, which is Boomer's Lounge. What is your pleasure?
Benson, so moved.
Schramm, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Any commission discussion on this item? Dave, are there any changes from previous years?
This applicant has submitted basically the same plan as previous years, and it's worked well as configured and meets all the ordinance requirements.
Thank you. Any commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No YouTube comments.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on new business item 4-1. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-1 passes 9-0.
Number 2 under new business is consideration of memorandum 21-20 and resolution 21-06 regarding an equipment purchase of a new articulating loader for the Department of Public Works. This would be from Transource Trucks and Equipment at a cost of $150,688. What is your pleasure?
Sarda moves to approve.
Brunig,
Mosier,
second.
Weber second.
We've got a motion and a second and then some. Any commission discussion on this item? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission on this item? Dave, anyone on YouTube?
No YouTube comments.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on new business item 4-2. Weber.
Weber votes aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, I.
Benson is aye. Brunig.
Brunig, aye.
Brunig is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-2 passes 9-0.
Number 3 under new business is introduction and first reading of ordinance number 1045, which establishes February 8th as the date for the second reading and public hearing regarding the first supplement to the 2021 annual appropriation ordinance number 1038. What is your pleasure?
So introduced, Mosier.
Thank you. Any further commission discussion before we move on? All right. And number 4 under new business is a consideration of memorandum 21-21 regarding a consulting agreement with Bill Efting. What is your pleasure?
Schramm, so moved.
Benson, second.
We've got a motion and a second. Amy, do you want to talk about what we are consulting with Bill about?
Sure, I'm going to have Ross step you through. I'm getting a little bit hoarse here, so he's going to step you through, and then I'm going to chime in if I want to add something. Thanks, Ross.
No problem. Good evening, Commissioners. The agreement before you establishes a relationship with Mr. Bill Efting. He is a retired city manager from the state of Colorado. He worked his whole career as a city manager in various communities, most of which were in Colorado. He finished out his career during that formidable period of time where Colorado was experiencing the rollout of the legalized marijuana, experienced the good, the bad, the ugly, and he worked very closely with the Colorado Municipal League. And through that process, developed a pretty good understanding of what works, what doesn't, what they wish they would have done differently. And he's now positioned himself as kind of a traveling expert, and he has helped numerous states roll out the legalization of marijuana, including Maine. In that process, he has helped a number of municipalities find their way. And he says there's a lot that we don't know that we need to be thinking about, more than just what seems logical to us. He's kind of a good find. We're kind of lucky, actually, because he kind of fell out of the sky into our laps. For sake of full disclosure, he actually happens to be the father of Lindsay Hobden, who is a deputy city attorney in my office. Just kind of sheer luck, but he's the right guy for the job, knows his stuff, and I think he can be very helpful to us as we figure out our way. Contract is ad hoc. We only use him and pay for him as we need him. So he's there as a position of support. There's no contractual obligation to pay him any set amount. He's just a crutch for us to rely on. So it's my recommendation, I believe the city manager joins me in the recommendation that the commission approve his consulting agreement.
And just so the commission's aware, one of our first, if the commission approves the contract, one of our first experiences will be, we will have a work session next month where Mr. Efting will come and provide an introduction and kind of give you a, how do you eat the marijuana elephant? One bite at a time. But where do we start? Where do we, especially when we don't have the guidance from the state yet? What should we be telling our legislators? What does he wish that he would have told Colorado legislators? So that sort of introduction, and to get to know him a little bit as he may be kind of coming in and out of our group, our team for a couple of months. He's already given me some assignments in preparation. Should you all approve his contract? He said, one of the things I need to do as a city manager is pick a small group of folks who will be on sort of the marijuana team or team cannabis, I guess, at the city, because, there's things that we're going to have impacts to, zoning, finance with licenses, and obviously policing, human resources, and then also an external team cannabis. We want to be talking with folks in the medical field, folks that are working with education and our educational facilities. And so lots of stuff, our mental health folks, that community. So there's a lot of people I need to start talking to and start having conversations with. So I think that will be a good opportunity to get to know him a little bit and then just wrap our heads around this a little bit, since I don't think any of us have been through anything like this before. And then some of the things that he'll talk to us too about, right now when something isn't right before us, it all seems like a good idea, right? And he said he has a lot of experiences working with these communities where it all seems like a good idea, and then what are the issues that are brought up in the public when it comes forward? Because it's a lot different, as we know, talking about it as an idea and the potential revenue, potential good. There are also some detrimental things that we need to consider, and there are some folks that aren't going to have the same feelings that we think that have prevailed with the vote in the state. So lots of things to look forward to. So again, he'll be here this time next month, should you approve that. Well, he won't be here. He'll be in on our call with us virtually, should you all approve this evening to talk with us more.
Commission discussion?
This is Commissioner Sarda. Thank you for thinking of reaching out to someone who has gone through this process already. I think that saves a lot and takes out a lot of unknowns, I guess. Have other communities reached out to maybe this gentleman or others that you know of, city manager?
Not that I know of. Commissioner Sarda, I have a sneaky suspicion that after folks start reading what occurred or didn't occur this evening, that other people may be interested. I have let the municipal league know that we were, you all would be considering this, so definitely want to connect him with, regardless of how your vote goes tonight, with the director of the municipal league, Yvonne Taylor, and the committee, of which Chief Harris and Ross Denherter serve on that state committee that's helping guide legislators. But I suspect many will. Part of the issue is really too just capacity. So Ross has got his hands full with a number of big items coming down the pipe, unrelated. We also have a lot of plans and things that were put on hold last year because of COVID-19 that we want to jump into. And I want to make sure that this gets the time and attention that it really deserves, and we don't get it wrong. And so none of us have the expertise either. So I think it would be helpful to have somebody who's been through it already. So no, I'm not aware of someone else that another city that's working on this, but I suspect in the larger cities they have a little more capacity to put together broader teams. And in the smaller cities, unfortunately, they may not be as equipped. And I want to make sure that we're poised for a good outcome on this.
Well, thank you. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think between Bill and Ross, you're on the municipal league's attorney task force, right?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so we should have a real leadership position in how this moves forward, if we can get the legislature's ear, that is. I think with all the interest there is from entrepreneurs in how this will turn out, it's essential that we get it right, because it could be a real mess if we get it wrong. So again, thank you for the forethought. Any more commission discussion?
I would just jump in on that, Mayor Johnson. We have to be proactive. I think it looks like you found the right guy, or like you said, the universe has dropped him into our lap. Something like this that can affect such a broad cross-section of our community, absolutely justifiable. Great option for us.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Brunick. I'd like to agree with that. I think the saying of experience is something you get just after you needed it is a perfect example here, and it'd be good to be getting somebody with some experience.
We looked for a pandemic consultant as well, but we couldn't find any, so.
Any more commission discussion? Would anyone in the audience like to address the commission? Dave, any thoughts on YouTube to be shared with us?
There are no comments on YouTube.
Thank you. Al, roll call, please.
And this is roll call on new business item 4-4. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Brunick.
Brunick, aye.
Brunick is aye. Sarda.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. New business item 4-4 passes 9-0.
There's no other business on tonight's agenda, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Benson, so moved.
Brunick,
Weber,
second.
second.
We've got a motion and a second. Al, roll call, please.
This is roll call on the adjournment of the city commission meeting of January 25th. Brunick.
Brunick, aye.
Brunick is aye. Commissioner Carta, I heard that is how we pronounce that on the radio today on an interview. So Commissioner Carta.
Sarda, aye.
Sarda is aye. Mybom.
Mybom is aye.
Mybom is aye. Minor.
Minor, aye.
Minor is aye. Mosier.
Mosier, aye.
Mosier is aye. Schramm.
Schramm, aye.
Schramm is aye. Weber.
Weber is aye.
Weber is aye. Benson.
Benson, aye.
Benson is aye. Mayor Johnson.
Johnson, aye.
Mayor Johnson is aye. Motion to adjourn passes 9-0.
This meeting is adjourned. Go forth and spread, yes, prosper and happiness, everyone. Take care.
Good night, everybody.